So hello everyone. Today I'm with Elisa Rumici. She's a pianist and she's gonna tell us a little bit about the beginning of her career and music in general. How are you doing today?
Ciao, thanks so much for having me. I'm very happy to be here and to talk about so many super interesting things that I hope will interest your audience as well. I'm doing great. I'm in Switzerland now, just came back from New York, and I'm gonna be in Helsinki soon. So I'm enjoying some days here in Basel right now.
Amazing. Grazie mille. Thank you very much for being here with us. And I would like to ask you, how did you start studying music? Why did you decide to be a pianist?
So I wish I had a very fancy story, but the truth is, for me, it started in a very playful way. So I've always been surrounded by music because my mom always listened to a lot of CDs. But the truth is that it started by singing. I was singing all day long. And my parents sent me to singing lessons. And in that room, there was a piano. And I still remember, even if I was very young, I was like 5, I fell in love with the instrument. And I was so attracted by it. And I so wanted to play it, but it wasn't allowed, but I still wanted to do that. And at the same time, I started watching this very, very, very famous Disney movie called The Aristocats. And in that movie, there are all these cats singing and playing. And then, of course, I wanted to do the same. So I started asking my mom for 1 year to give me the chance to have piano lessons. And she was a little bit reluctant. But then after 1 year of convincing her, I was given this opportunity. And that's how things started when I was 6.
That's great. And where do you draw inspiration from to make music?
It's interesting because I would say inspiration comes from many, many, many different sources. In general, I would say probably the biggest source is art in general. I'm very passionate about visual art, about architecture, design. So for me, it's very, very important to be, to visit museums, to visit exhibition. And this gives me a lot of inspiration. At the same time, inspiration comes from everyday life, from my own experiences, the experiences of people around me. And a lot, I would say, also from reading, researching. And then the main inspiration comes from the music itself, because there's always this, I feel like when we play, we are like archaeologists. We are exploring the score, exploring the music material, getting closer and closer to it, making it our own. So I would say inspiration comes from all these elements.
What benefits do you think arts in general can bring to an individual?
I would say many, and here I'm not just talking about music. I think that art gives us the opportunity to explore different perspectives. It gives us the opportunity to connect with our emotions at a deeper level. And also, to experience emotions, feelings, situations that we might not encounter in our everyday life. So in this sense, for me, playing is a little bit like being an actress. I can explore different roles and assume different characters and, experience emotions that maybe I don't experience in my everyday life. Maybe I also don't want to experience in my everyday life, but by having the chance to do that and convey that through music, I feel like this enables us to become ultimately more, to have more empathy, At the same time, I feel like we are in a society where there are so many things. We are constantly busy, we are constantly distracted, and there's also to some degree an aspect in which we are more and more isolated. I know that with social media, it looks like we are more connected, but in a way, I feel like we are also more isolated and more disconnected from ourselves. And I feel like through art, we can silence all this noise and get closer to ourselves. But at the same time, it allows us to communicate better with others, because I feel like it allows for a deeper level of connection. And this is, again, something that I believe we need more and more in this world that is becoming more and more egocentric, if you allow me to say that. So yeah, I think music and art in general can do a lot for us as artists and for everyone else as well.
And I know it's a difficult question, but what does music represent in your life? Could you define it in a few words?
Yeah, it's hard to define it because I started playing when I was very young, and I learned to read the notes when I learned to read letters. So for me, music has always been a means of communication, but has also been always a means to explore and get closer, get more connected with myself as well. For me, when I play, when I'm immersed in art, it's a way to get closer to who I am. So I imagine I've never been, I've never done that. I've never done meditation, but I would imagine that by playing, we might get closer to a state that could have something in common with meditation.
This is amazing. And was there a special composer that influenced you in your career or helped you find your inner voice?
Yeah, many different ones. I would say traditionally, Schumann, Debussy, Liszt, Scriabin, very different composers. But now with time, as I started also doing a lot of research on forgotten repertoire, and I've started this project where I am rediscovering Italian women composers, I would say that, playing the music, discovering the stories of composers that have been silenced or neglected and that were not given the chance to be heard. It's a way for me to have even more agency as a performer. And it gave me the opportunity to really, to find my own voice. And especially when you play music by composers who share so much with you, who come from a similar background or share similar challenges or come from the same culture. This allows you through their music and their experience to also get closer to aspects belonging to your own experience that you might have forgotten.
tell us a little bit about your career now, your plans for the future.
Yeah, in recent years, I started merging my activity as a performer with that of a researcher. And very soon, in 1 month, you actually the first who's gonna know that my CD dedicated to the rediscovery of a piano music by an Italian woman composer, Gilda Ruta, who has been completely forgotten till this moment. My CD is gonna be out mid of September. So this is a very, very, very big achievement that I'm very proud of. And with that, there are going to be concerts and publications, articles, and maybe even a book. So we're going to see about that. But so my next projects are all in the direction of trying to combine performance with, research, but also pedagogy activities, because I feel like it's very important as an artist not only to discover something, but also to find ways to communicate it so that it has a long-lasting, hopefully, impact.
That's amazing. You do a great job. You're interpreting fantastic composers, and congratulations on your work, because you're discovering, let's say this word, discovering people that are not very common to hear about, right? Such composers you mentioned. Which are your favorite girl composers? Let's say like that.
Oh, it's very tough. I mean, I grew up loving the music by Clara Schumann, of course. But there are so many that I'm discovering now. And I would say, especially in the Italian music panorama, there are so many that have been that have not been so present in concert programs. And now, because I spent so much time with Gilda Ruta, of course, I have to say she's very close to my heart. But I'm also ready to make space for new ones.
Sounds great. So a musician has to have open mind. What tips or recommendations could you give to a person who wants to study the piano to become a professional in the future, perhaps?
Oh, that's a very good question. And when I look back at my experience, I sometimes wonder, like, what would I recommend to that young girl? I feel like it's very important to surround yourself with people who can help you grow in a positive way. And especially when you're very young, are careful about your development, not just as a musician, but also as a person. And this is a very important aspect because there are so many, young prodigies who burn out at a certain point. So I would say surround yourself with people who can help you grow, and also put yourself in situations that give you the chance to, to challenge yourself. Because I feel like if you stay always in your comfort zone, you're not going to grow. And then, of course, practice, and not just practice by repeating things, but mindfully. Listen to what you're doing, listen to yourself, especially because there's so much injury going on in our world and people don't talk about it. And I don't want to make it more simple than what it is, but I feel like if you are aware of what you're doing, if you listen to your body, if you listen to how you feel when you play, a lot of those injuries can be actually avoided. So I would say maybe that.
It sounds great. And how do you keep yourself or you stay sane in this position? Because you're an international musician, you're always playing, always practicing, you do a lot. People think it's an easy job because it's funny or you have fun playing the piano, but it demands a lot of energy, a lot of discipline. How do you, at a certain point, get a little bit more relaxed, take a deep breath? What do you do in these cases?
So what I came to realize throughout the years is that, as I said, it's important to know what gives you joy in your everyday life. And besides playing, of course, there are some things that I need to do to feel well, which involve, visiting museums, spending some time outside, spending time with people who love me for who I am and with whom I can share, positive energy. So I would say this, and then I've never been so much into sport, I must confess, unfortunately. But I've been recently trying yoga. I'm not sure if it's like something I'm gonna stick to, but it made me feel very well. I think I like it. So yeah, I would say like activities that are for me like that give a boost to my creativity, like visiting museums, being surrounded with people with whom I can have positive exchange, and spending time outside.
Sounds amazing. And for people who want to get to know more about your work, do you have a website, a contact?
Yeah, I would love to stay in touch. You can find me on my website, elisarumici.com, then on Instagram and YouTube. So please, let's keep in touch.
And do you teach music?
Yeah, I do teach here in Switzerland. I've been teaching in a conservatory in Italy as well. And very often I travel for conferences.
Sounds amazing. So could you tell us a little bit more about your new album? I'm very curious about this.
So VCD is dedicated to the piano music by the Italian composer Gilda Ruta, and it's gonna be released by Da Vinci Publishing very soon in September. And it's the first CD dedicated to this repertoire because, although she was an incredibly successful pianist and composer, she was born in the 19th century, because she was a woman, she wasn't given the possibility to really work, or she did, but it was very challenging in Italy. It was a very conservative environment back then. And so at a certain point, when she was more or less my age, she left Italy. She was already a widow with her 2 children, her luggage, and she moved to New York to pursue her desire for independence. And there she became incredibly successful. But unfortunately, her music was lost, forgotten. And so this is the first time people are given the opportunity to discover it. And I'm so happy and so proud and so grateful to Giovanni Villar, who gave me the chance to have access to have scores, which were not easy to find. And yeah, and besides that, there's my whole work of research dedicated to another composer, this one from Finland, called Eno Juhani Rautavaara. And that's one of the topics of my conferences. And there's a lot of material that is going to be available soon. But this is a surprise that I will tell you about, hopefully in the next interview.
Thank you very much for being here with us, for sharing a lot of emotions, talking about music, which is very important to mankind, I would say. And it was very kind of you to talk to us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Ciao.